Hello, and today we're talking about greatest common factor. The greatest common factor is the biggest number that is in common when we talk about the factors. So, for instance, what number divides two numbers? And what is the biggest number that divides two numbers? You can probably do a lot of this in your head, but I'm going to show you a method for larger numbers that you can use to help you out. It's called the cake method. Now, it's also called the ladder method. It's called a bunch of different things. Hockey sticks, I've heard it called as well. They're all the same. Basically, you set up two numbers in an upside down division sign. Divide both of them by the same common factor until that common factor is 1, and I'll explain that in a second. And then multiply all the common factors together to get the GCF, or greatest common factor. So let's go ahead and look at the two numbers, 36 and 24. First, set them up in your upside down division sign. If it was a normal division sign, it would go up and to the right on top, but it's not. It's upside down, so it goes down and to the right on bottom. Next, go ahead and divide them both by the same common factor. We're using the numbers 36 and 24. Therefore, we have many options to choose from. What can divide 36 and 24? I'm going to start with the number 2. It's the easiest number, and we can divide by 2 fairly easily. So 36 divided by 2 is 18, and I put the result right down here. 24 divided by the 2 is 12, and I put the result here. Now, looking at these two bottom numbers, they can still be divided. I'm going to pick a number that divides both 18 and 12. I pick 6. 6 goes into 18 3 times. 6 goes into 12 2 times. So it does work. On the bottom, I'm left with 3 and 2. 3 and 2 cannot be divided anymore. The only thing that divides 3 is 3. The only thing that divides 2 is 2. Therefore, that common factor is 1. We can't divide anymore. We stop. Now, to find the greatest common factor, we take the two common factors we pulled out and multiply them together. So we do 2 times 6 is 12. Now, if you're looking at this and you might think, wait a minute, couldn't I divide 36 and 24 by a lot of other numbers? Well, the answer is yes. No matter what numbers you pick, your GCF will always be 12, and let me show you why. Let's say I divided by 4 first. 36 divided by 4 is 9. 24 divided by 4 is 6. That works. But then 9 and 6 here have common factors. I can divide both 9 and 6 by the number 3. I'm left with 3 and 2 again. So take my two common factors, 4 and 3, multiply them together, and I get 12. It still got me the same answer of 12. What if I divided by 6 first? Well, 36 divided by 6 is 6. 24 divided by 6 is 4. Now divide them both by 2. I get 3 and 2 left at the bottom, just like every other problem. And 6 times 2 is 12 again. There could have been another number that I could have divided both 36 and 24 by, and that would be 12. If I would have used 12 right away, I wouldn't have had a lot of stuff going along the side. Now, what if there are 3 numbers? Well, you do it the same exact way. Let's take 90, 72, and 45. Go ahead and set them up in my upside down division sign. Now think about what can divide 90, 72, and 45. Well, if you're like me, you're not quite sure. So I would look at the numbers and see what's in common between 3 of them, or 2 of them. So like 45 and 90, I know 45 goes into 90. So whatever goes into 45 can also go into 90. 72, though, I don't really know how they compare. So I have to think for a little bit, and I need to try some numbers. I'm going to try the number 3. I know 3 goes into 90 30 times. I knew 3 went into 45 15. 72 I wasn't so sure of, but it turns out that 72 divided by 3 is 24. A little trial and error here to figure out some numbers that divide them, and you should be able to figure it out. You can use a calculator to assist you. There's just usually not a greatest common factor function on a calculator. You have to really kind of work through it. Now, looking at these 3 numbers, 30, 24, and 15, they do have another common factor. That number is 3. 30 divided by 3 is 10. 24 divided by 3 is 8. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Now, I look at the next three numbers, 10, 8, and 5. They have nothing in common in all three. It has to be in common in all three in order to be considered a greatest common factor. Therefore, I'm done. I just multiply 3 times 3 together, and I get my answer of 9. This will take a little bit of practice if you want to use it. There's also another video on the link to help you with greatest common factor using factor trees. Whichever method works for you will work. But what happens if I try and divide, but the only number that divides them both is 1? If that ever happens, then the greatest common factor is 1. Okay? No matter what, using the cake method or the factor tree method on that other video, if you can only find that the only number that divides them both is 1, then the GCF is 1. I hope this video is helpful, and as always, thank you for using Seyer Mathematics.